I recognize that because today is what it is, most will be reflecting on the message of the crucifixion and resurrection, but because I'm less conventional and unorthodox, as well as out of respect for all forms of belief, there will be no praying in this sermon, and I would like to instead visit a more inclusive, relatable, less religious message with an approach resembling that of interfaith, focusing primarily on the subject of choices. So at this time, if you would please turn your Bibles to Romans 13, and we'll begin reading from verses 1 through 7. Let every person be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and those that exist have been instituted by God. Therefore, whoever resists the authorities resists what God has appointed, and those who resist will incur judgment. For rulers are not a terror to good conduct, but to bad. Would you have no fear of the one who is in authority? Then do what is good, and you will receive his approval, for he is God's servant for your good. But if you do wrong, be afraid, for he does not bear the sword in vain. For he is the servant of God, an avenger who carries out God's wrath on the wrongdoer. Therefore, one must be in subjection not only to avoid God's wrath, but also for the sake of conscience. For because of this, you also pay taxes, for the authorities are the ministers of God. Attending to this very thing, pay to all what is owed to them, taxes to whom taxes are owed, revenue to whom revenue is owed, respect to whom respect is owed, honor to whom honor is owed. Now, we could give a drawn-out, in-depth interpretation to explain what this particular series of verses means, but again, the message from me today is simple, and I firmly believe the texts speak for itself, which is why I chose to speak on the topic. Leadership and governing are as important today as it has ever been. Sure, Rome has provided history with some interesting leaders: Romulus, Gaius Julius Caesar Germanicus, Rodrigo de Borgia, Giovanni Maria Chiocchi del Monte, Benedetto Catani, etc., further highlighting the need for care and time to be taken when appointing one, and since a mob or society cannot be trusted with the immense responsibility of holding itself accountable, with a couple of examples being the choices that took place leading to the death of Jesus, as well as the recent greedy, selfish choices that has put us all in the current situation that the world is in now, by individuals choosing to behave so self-centered they put the rest at risk by refusing to practice social distancing and self-isolate, carelessly assisting with the spread of this contagion. Which brings me to the highly ill-prepared administrations that were elected to represent the societies existing in both events. Boom, at the judgment of Jesus, and now. Both civilizations were victims to overly ambitious leadership, unable to provide the most basic of direction. Rome washed their hands of Jesus, allowing him to be killed with the criminal being freed, and today, well, there exist endless profound examples. The responsibilities a well-governed society should expect to have constantly addressed consistently is an infrastructure that's ahead of its time, or at best adequate enough to encourage proper personal development, quality education and food supplies, paired with the religiously promoted protection for the environment. The blood that was spilled and trickled down the side of Jesus was unfortunately the result of an uninspired society led by weak leadership, and now with the distraction of this pandemic, some egregious elected officials like Viktor Orban that has taken this unpropitious opportunity to reveal their true nature, such as hiding disastrous events like those that occurred in Wuhan's Hubei province, or leaving their citizens to deal with the dead children in cages at their borders, as well as a failing oversight committee that results in the avoidable death of many members from the public and the private sector working in essential fields who should benefit from but will probably experience the possible threats of vast amounts of misappropriated funds. Leadership should be fair, prepared, and exude pride in the priceless concept of liberty. It may come as no surprise that a fine example can be found in Washington's abdication to become king. Because of his enlightened sensibilities, he was able to understand that people need to be governed but reserve the deserved right to choose who will lead them to victory or into madness, unlike the failed choices that freed Barabbas and murdered Jesus, or the choices that allowed the fall of Adam and Eve. Now is the time for giving, but I don't want your tithes or offering. However, if you do choose to donate, please find any charity of your choosing, hopefully one sponsoring an endangered species. Again, out of respect for absolute inclusivity, I will not be closing in prayer, but instead with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag and the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hashtag ACN Opportunity LLC. Hashtag Matt Hancock Test Kits. Hashtag Guangzhou. Hashtag Tai Ingwen. Thank you.